Hello everybody. As you can see, Theo's changed his hairstyle and unfortunately he's not available today. So we've got Monique in who's going to ask me some of the questions that our clients have been asking us over the last few days and weeks and I guess months even. And we thought, we would just take some of those really specific questions that they've got and try to answer them as best we can.
So the rand is extremely volatile at the moment. When do I take my capital offshore?
That's a great question, Monique. As we look at it at the moment, you could look at the exchange rate, and it's almost changing by the second at the moment, by 2 or 3 or 4% at a time. And so to try and predict where the rand's going to be in half an hour from now is going to be incredibly difficult. Forget about in 2 or 3 weeks' time from now. So I think what we'd be saying to our clients is just be careful with making your big forex purchases. So if you're going to send out a reasonably large amount of money for you, then maybe do it in batches. So do a portion now when the rand is below 14 rand 50 to the dollar, potentially another portion when the rand hits about 14, and then when it breaks below 14, then do the rest. But for the long term, we still think that 13 rand 50 is the ideal level for the rand to the dollar. And I think it's important not to get too flustered by these market movements that we see in the rand, because these are issues that are really being caused by international factors. They really have very little to do with what's going on in South Africa.
Trump is causing chaos internationally and the US markets are expensive. What do I do?
So I think the big issue for us is not so much Trump and the political chaos that he's causing, because what we've noticed is that a lot of the concerns that are raised by investors around Trump are really diminishing over time. I think in the beginning all of us were really worried about him and wondering what he was going to do and how much chaos he was going to cause. But what we've realized is he says a lot, but what he actually does and what he actually implements is quite controlled and quite limited, in fact, in terms of market impact. So I think for us that's not really a concern, but the valuations of the American stock market are an issue. And certainly for investors, what we'd be saying is don't put all your money in the American Stock Exchange, and specifically don't put it all in the big tech companies that are massively overvalued at the moment. It might be that those companies will carry on growing for a long period of time, but the likelihood is that some of them will take a pause and potentially lose value as well. So what we'd be saying on a global basis is make sure that you've got exposure to other countries as well. Look at Europe, look at Japan, look at the emerging markets, even a little bit in the UK, despite the whole concern about Brexit. And then specifically when you make your investment decisions, try and have a combination of indexed investments, which will be exposed to some of those expensive companies, but also to the more value managers, where you find they'll be investing in companies and sectors of the market that are particularly unloved at the moment, but potentially will benefit in the months and years ahead.
The South African stock market still isn't climbing. Do I have to sell all my South African shares?
Oh, Monique, you're asking me all the tough questions today. Where's Theo when you need him? I think the interesting thing about the South African stock market is that the way that it stayed flat for this long period of time might create the impression that nothing has happened. That all the companies that we've got in that market have just stayed absolutely flat and done nothing in terms of profit growth or share price growth, etc. But that's actually not the truth. What we've seen is in the last few years we've had Naspers really going on a long extended run up where we've seen its share price really go up very, very nicely. But since the month of December, we've seen that whole relationship change. So we've seen Naspers actually come down quite a bit in share price, and other parts of our market have started to deliver some kind of a return. So for example, the mining houses have started to deliver some growth, and I guess the broader resources sector as well, which has been underpinned to some extent by the rising oil price in dollars and the weakening rand. So although it feels like nothing has happened, a heck of a lot has actually happened over the last 2 or 3 years. And I think our market is well poised for some kind of a jump and some kind of a change, I guess, when we see more certainty around political policies and economic policies in South Africa. So most likely that will become clearer as we see a change in the mining charter and we see what happens in the run-up to the elections, and then I think in the first few months after the elections. So for now, please don't sell your shares, please stay invested and see how the story unfolds, because I think it could be very positive for investors.